order. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Culpepper.
Present.
Dr. Denson.
Present.
Mr. Griffiths.
Here.
Mr. Huntington.
Present.
Mr. Martin.
Present.
Ms. Mia.
Present.
Mr. Willis. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum to conduct business this evening.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Can I have approval of the agenda, please?
I move for the approval of the agenda dated today, November 20th, 2019.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Willis, seconded by Commissioner Mia. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So that will pass as stated. Okay, I'd like to read something into the record. The Southfield Planning Commission is a 7-member board appointed by the mayor with approval by the city council that acts in an advisory capacity to the council to make recommendations on text amendments to the Southfield zoning ordinance, rezoning requests, special land use, site plan reviews, the Southfield master plan, and the capital improvement plan. All study meetings and the regular meetings are open to the public in accordance with the Open Meeting Act, PA 267 of 1976, and are held on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Meeting agendas are posted the Friday evening before the next Wednesday meeting and are available for viewing at thecityofsouthfield.com. Copies of plans, text amendments, the master plan, and the capital improvement plan are available for viewing at the planning department offices, and current projects can be viewed on our online interactive tool on the planning department's homepage, Planning Department Projects Online. Contact the planning department at 248-796-4150. That's 248-796-4150 with questions Monday through Friday, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Do we have any announcements or communications?
Yeah, there are none at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to take this time to open the public hearing. First on the agenda, we have PZR 18-0003.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall, a couple of weeks ago when we met, this particular item, this rezoning request on Farmbrook, as well as the site plan review request, SP 18-0007, because we are still awaiting some information from the petitioner. Last month we postponed it to tonight's meeting. We still don't have that information available at this time. So what staff would like to do is recommend postponement to no date certain on both the rezoning request, PZR 18-0003 and PSP 18-0007, until we receive the information that we require from the petitioner, have an opportunity to vet that, and then bring it back to the petition. So again, that is the Planning Department's recommendation this evening, to postpone to no date certain the rezoning request and that site plan review request.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Martin.
I'd like to make a motion that site plan PSP 18-0007 and PZR 18-0003 be postponed to no date certain.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Martin to postpone and supported by Commissioner Mia. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll be postponed to a date certain.
If I may, through the chair,
Uncertain.
to the public that they may be watching this evening, basically what that means is staff will need to re-advertise this project. So if you did receive a notice the first time around, we will be resending new notices, and those notices will again state the date in which the next public hearing and study meetings will be held.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have PZRODD 19-0001.
Good evening. I'm going to do an introduction and then turn it over to the applicant. We'll probably do one presentation, but we'll have to act on each of the rezoning cases separately.
Okay.
But they are combined together. Petitioners AF Jonah Development on behalf of the city of Southfield. Project is located on Greenfield Road, on the east side of Greenfield, between JL Hudson Drive and Northland Drive. First parcel is approximately 4.18 acres. This is PZR ODD 19-001. It's within the current lifestyle district of the Northland Overlay Development District. And what they're proposing is to amend the Northland Sub-Area Redevelopment Plan to allow for development of retail businesses. The proposed subparcel is Unit 2. I'm going to take you back to the plan that is currently approved, which is the Northland redevelopment sub-area, which was approved in June of 2017. And if you look on the screen here, we're just focusing on the Greenfield development, and you can see that the parcels, the conceptual plan shows development offset of Greenfield with at least 60 feet of parking along the frontage. So we're only focusing on amending this portion of the approved plan to date. The parcel itself measures approximately 250 feet wide by 730 feet deep, and it's the current site of the former Montgomery Ward Tire Center, so if you're familiar with that. These are existing conditions. Pretty much all of the parcels north, south, east, and west are vacant or parking lots. This is a current condition of the former Montgomery Ward Tire Center. Looking from Greenfield, the site is currently zoned Northland ODD Lifestyle District, and they want to amend certain portions of that overlay development district. And before I turn it over to the representatives of AF Jonah Development, we do have Mr. Alice Sevis. He's the DDA director, and due to other time commitments, I'm going to allow him to make a couple preliminary comments, and then he's going to have to excuse himself, and then we'll turn over the presentation to the representatives of Jonah Development.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, members. As the city planner
You have to give your name and address.
mentioned, my name is Al Sevis. I'm the executive director of the Southfield DDA, 18,000 West 9 Mile. As Terry had mentioned, I'm very grateful to be able to say a few words this evening. The city and the DDA have been working on this project for darn near 4 years. I want to sort of provide the commission an understanding of the process that we have gone through to get to this point in the development. Since the beginning, which was really December 2015, we established a Northland committee, which was comprised of 3 council members, the mayor, 3 DDA board members, and staff. And through the last 4 years, we have gone through a number of activities. We spent quite a deal of money, close to $13 million into the development at this point. And really, we had some interest by developers, but really not to the extent that you'll be hearing this evening. So we're very excited about the fact that we've reached this point, and I hope that on behalf of the DDA board and myself that you look at these plans this evening in a favorable manner. The DDA is a recommending body, much as the commission members are. We are meeting this Friday to take action on this particular project. Throughout the course of at least 2 years or so, I have been keeping them abreast every meeting that we've had, so they're very familiar with it. I expect that we will have 100% vote for yes to move this plan going forward. Again, this development is the largest development, not only in the city, but for the DDA. And so it's really a lifeline, not only from the plan development, but from a valuation standpoint, as the DDA has suffered from evaluation on the buildings extensively over the last 8 years. So with approval of this and some other plans that we'll be presenting to the commission, we think that it will allow us to turn the corner. So thank you again. I'd be willing to answer any particular question that the commission may have right now. Otherwise, I'm always available for phone calls or meetings.
Okay, thank you.
And again, I want to emphasize, of the approximately 114-acre site of the former Northland Center, we're only focusing on about 10 acres and only the greenfield frontage, and we're only focused on retail development along Greenfield. You will see in subsequent months future development plans for other parcels of the site, but tonight is the first step in the redevelopment of the entire parcels, but we're only, again, focusing on approximately 10 acres frontage along Greenfield. Okay? With that, you're going to introduce your development team and forward, backwards, pointer. Nice.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Tim Ponton. I'm with Stonefield Engineering and Design. Stonefield has been retained on this project as the site engineer and designer, the landscape architect, and also one of the project planners for the site in totality. We are working alongside 3 other architecture firms as well on this project, so there's been a group of about 25 to 30 individuals meeting and working very hard on the plan that you're going to see in front of you guys tonight. We're here tonight on behalf of A.F. Jonah. A.F. Jonah is one of the top developers in the state. They've got a long-standing relationship with the city of Southfield. See if I can get this thing working here. Got a couple of projects at the completed recently in the city of Southfield at the northwest corner of 12 and Southfield. They got a mixed-use development. That mixed-use development has shopping center in the front and some residential behind. The bottom left photograph, you've got the northwest corner of 12 Mile and Telegraph, which is a shopping center that they completed within the last 1.5 or 2 years. And then we have attached a project that is actually in Livonia, but it's under construction now. It has a lot in common with what we're going to review tonight. So if you guys are ever in that area, you can stop by and take a look at the residential aspect of that. We do have Jason Jaguar here, and Scott Jonah with A.F. Jonah and Tower Construction. We are representing them here tonight, and we're excited to be a part of this project. As I mentioned, we've been working around the clock on this project. There's a lot of professionals, there's a lot of different opinions. We've been going back and forth, but I'd like to take a moment and just kind of talk about in our first meeting, like, wow, this was the first suburban regional shopping center in the United States. And it was kind of a sentence that went by and we thought about it and it was cool, but as future meetings went on, it became more and more significant to kind of understand the history that's associated with this project and the importance of what this piece of real estate means, and not only just for the local community here, but also what it's done for the state and then nationally. I mean, when you think about this was the first suburban regional shopping center in the country, and then you think about in society over the last 50 years, the number one place that everybody shops in our country has been shopping malls. The number one place that people go and meet friends, community, eat, holidays, has all happened in shopping malls. So to think that there was a developer who was J.L. Hudson's at the time, an Austrian architect who convinced them to do it, and then the city of Southfield willing to kind of take that leap and some faith and be visionaries into what would then become a trend across the entire country. It's really cool to kind of step back and reflect on that. And as planners and architects and engineers, we kind of see things working in cycles. So we've really spent a lot of time reflecting on the past, and now we see this as an opportunity to kind of do the same thing again and start to pave the way, because something happened around the 1990s that nobody could have predicted in the 50s and 40s, which was this thing called the internet was created, which you can't actually see, but it just exists somewhere in space. And what happened when the internet was invented was almost kind of the death of the large-scale regional shopping center, because what happened essentially is now, here we are in 2019, they say that 80% of our society shops online. So you can see that some of the Class A malls are still successful, but between the internet and some oversaturation of markets, all of the Class B, C, and D, and some of the older malls, the older style malls, we're really looking and struggling as a nation to find how will we find an adaptive reuse for these sites. They're huge properties, they're awkward shapes. Like, what can we do? So we've added a little timeline here that we've essentially gone to. The site overall is approximately 125 acres. As you can see, it's essentially almost all paved. Not a lot of green space. There's some scattered trees throughout the site. A lot of the access points are very outdated and unsafe, and you can see just the odd geometry overall of the lot. We've included here some of the very significant pieces that we thought are a huge part of the community. You know, things that our families have been associated with, whether we recognize it or not, if it was driving by, pointing at it, kids talking to their parents and things like that. So obviously the Hudson's building, Hudson's was the developer of this mall. They were kind of the central. The way that these original malls were created was they put the anchor in the middle, and then they put little stores around them kind of in a ring. And that's essentially how about 50% of all the malls in America were designed for a good 10 to 20 years after Northland was built. So we've included some important aspects here: the Hudson's building, the water tower and the power station, the Northland sign. It's just a map showing where they're at. And then obviously there's the incredible tunnels and basement, which is just, this was actually the first post-war major development in Metro Detroit, was also here at Northland Mall. The site is compromised right now into what are called units, and you can kind of think of these units as property lines. So right now you can see Unit 1 is to the north, it's about 5 acres. Unit 2 is along Greenfield Road, northern Greenfield Road, 4.2 acres. Unit 3 is just below that, it's about 4.5 acres. Unit 4 in the southeast corner. And then Unit 5 is the huge parcel. Unit 5 is where the entire existing mall building lays out. Tonight, we are here specifically, as Terry said, just for Units 2 and 3, which you can see are the Greenfield Road frontage. There's about 730 plus or minus feet for Unit 2 of frontage, and about 750 feet for Unit 3. So we're just here tonight focusing on those 2 units. There's no portion of the mall building that falls within Units 2 or 3. As Terry led on to, I think we have very similar photos. Currently on Unit 2 is the old tire center and a bunch of pavements and some outdated light poles. And then the picture below that you'll see is Unit 3, which is essentially just all parking lot. There's no buildings on Unit 3. It's fenced off. So that's kind of going through some of the history and the existing conditions of what exists there today, and recognizing the importance of it. Now moving on to the proposal in front of you tonight. This is Unit 2. This is the northern piece. So starting from north and going south with the buildings, we've got a 28,000 square foot fitness center with about 125 parking spaces dedicated for that, and a 15,048 square foot mixed-use shopping center with about 93 parking spaces. Overall, about 43,000 square feet of building with about 220 shared parking spaces. You'll notice that there's a little green pad all the way to the south, which we're going to leave open for a future building opportunity, should and if it comes in the future. So that's Unit 2, and this is also what we're going to, as we move on, this is also Phase 1. So just kind of make a mental note of that as we move forward. This is Unit 3, which was the site to the south, about 4.5 acres, and we've got 4 buildings proposed on this site going from north to south. We've got a 6,000 square foot, a 14,000 square foot, a 10,000 square foot, and an 8,000 square foot buildings. Again, all mixed use, restaurant, retail, similar to things you'd see at 12 and Southfield or 12 and Telegraph. Good integration of different users on site. So there's about 40,000 square feet of overall building there and shared around 250 parking spaces. On this next slide, you'll see how both of the sites work together. So Unit 2 is to the north with all the development, and Unit 3 to the south with all of its development. It took us a long time to arrive at this final plan, and a big part of the decision-making process was, where do these buildings go, right? And what is the best placement for the buildings, and how should these sites work together, and how should this piece work overall, not only with the corridor, but in creating our new district? And we ended up at this final location of the buildings for a number of different reasons, and those reasons are overall project viability and success, the access points, and site safety and circulation due to where the driveways were and how you can access sites and get to the building, marketability, floor plan optimization for this amount of retail project, adaptive reuse in the future, and lastly, there's significant infrastructure that goes along all the way from north to south. Like, we've essentially pushed these buildings as close to Greenfield as we can without having a significant impact on a 5-foot sewer pipe. One is for waste, and the other one is a storm sewer pipe. So there's actually both of them that exist in front of these buildings that we're going to be protecting and saving. They do also service some of our neighbors to the south of this site. Their utilities go through our site. So we'll be keeping them online as well. Another big piece of this, when you look at the ODD and some of the requirements and the overall studies that were done by the city and its professional over the last couple of years, is you look at compatibility with the surrounding uses. And as you go up and down this corridor along Greenfield, you have some very comparable uses, right? It's retail, it's restaurant, you have development similar to this, and you look at this as almost a transition piece into what's going to become this district, right? So there's parts of this that's similar in terms of site layout and use, but then we find a way to really distinguish this, to say, okay, now this is a transition piece into something that's going to be very different. Access, as you can see, there's 3 driveways, one to the north, one in the middle, and the one to the south. We see the middle driveway being one of the main focal points and the main access points into this overall development when that happens. You can see that there's significant pedestrian walking paths between each one of the buildings. There will be allowances for bicycle parking as much as we can get or as much as we need. And we've also proposed a full cutoff LED lighting, high efficiency that will provide zero light pollution. This is a look at what that main entrance driveway would look like. It's high landscape design. We're looking to reuse that important kind of nostalgic sign that I had earlier in the presentation that's been a landmark of this site for so many years. And then you can kind of get a sneak peek into the building architecture as well, which I'm going to get into here now. So this is the Phase 1 buildings. Starting with we'll start at the building on the right, which is the fitness center. The main element and what's making this really cool and unique is the beams and columns that kind of outline the main arcade area of the building. You've got metal siding below that and above the 12-foot high windows and brick ledge located at the bottom with a 24-foot building height, and then that's mixed with the brick and mason veneer in the rear, but all high-quality materials with a good mix. And then moving to the shopping center, you can see that it has its own identity. It looks a little bit different, but there are some key elements that tie it together. There's a different type of metal siding. You've got the brick veneer. You can see a lot of different changes in overall elevations to create some verticality. There's some bumps that come in and out, but then if you look at that the middle kind of central piece, again, we've got those beams and columns kind of creating that arcade to tie the buildings in this development together. And then we'll be playing with some of these features as well in future phases of the development, where the buildings will all have kind of their own identity, but there will be a piece or two that kind of ties it together. There's also, right below, or above the windows, I should say, you've got the canopy, and the canopy will be attached, not like the old style where you can see the entire canopies coming down, but with a rod and turnbuckle, with then just a flat top that will protect, people from rain and snow and whatever else. But very cool. These are long-lasting building materials. They're kind of timeless as well, so you're not going to look at these things in 20 years and say that looks, kind of funny, like we do some buildings from 20 years ago. So as I mentioned, we really see this, units 2 and 3, as the gateway to this overall development. We see this as a very necessary first step to overall economic success for this project. We think that if we start to build this, and if we can get phase 1 in the ground and constructed and get some activity, that a lot of future businesses will grow from that, but we have to start somewhere. This is a very necessary first step. The overall big picture of this is between all the units, there's going to be a very important roadway network. And in that roadway network that kind of splits all those units, there's going to be walking paths and a significant number of trees, and it separates the different uses. But the only part of that we'll be building right now, you'll see, is the driveways. But a more important aspect of what there is within that road network, there's another part called the perimeter path. And the perimeter path is an 8-foot wide overall path that kind of hugs the entire development. And it is very high streetscape, landscape design. You can see it located just adjacent to the greenfield frontage along the front here. Zooming up a little bit closer, I mentioned previously compatibility with the surrounding uses, and however we could create some design features that would really, really separate this development from everything else you see on Greenfield. And this is really the separator. So you've got overall, this is what creates the district. This is the transition into the district. Right when you walk past the site to the north and onto this site, you can feel a major difference with this high landscape and streetscape. And so first of all, the path is 8 feet wide, much wider than your typical walking path. There's 3 feet of protection from the road, but as you move into the site, there will be a hedge across the entire frontage of 1,500 feet, and every 50 feet on center within that hedge, you're going to have a brick pillar or a stone pillar, a stone column, and then uniformly placed between those columns, you're going to have street trees. And also within that, you're going to have a series of different shrubs and perennial plants. We're proposing over 40 frontage trees, another 26 along the driveways. We're improving this site to have about 18% green space overall, when what exists now is almost zero. It is a significant improvement to what's there. It's an important start to what we think is one of the most important projects, not only in the state and the region, but in the country. And we're really proud of the product that we're putting in.
Tim, before
Yep.
you go to the next slide.
Yep.
I just want to mention that this is going to be setting the stage for a 1.5 mile perimeter around the entire site. And so when everything that gets established in this phase will set the tone for all the perimeter development. And the goal is to have a 1.5 mile walking perimeter exclusive of anything internal. So this would be the unified streetscape that will be carried around in the various phases of development. And it's really important that we get this right in the first phase.
It's a good thing Terry interrupted me, because I forgot to talk about the pedestrian plazas before I moved on. So that you can see the little pedestrian plaza, again, it's going to be high landscape design. There will be benches located in these little community and public areas. It'll be a mixture of a wall and some type of wrought iron fencing to provide visibility within these, and there will be at every corner of, here, let's see, you can kind of see one at the corner here, and they'll be located at all the entrances, like as you enter the site. That completes our presentation, and when we're here and happy to answer any questions. Thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to take this time to open it to the public. If there's anyone who would like to speak on this rezoning request, please step forward. Okay. Yep, come on up. State your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Alvin Strain. I live at 18471 West 9 Mile Road in Southfield. And I'm just curious, I'm really excited about what I see here. One of the things, and I just relocated here in May from Atlanta, and my wife and I, we travel for our grocery markets, upscale market. We go all the way up to 15 Mile, Maple Road, and Lasher. To Plum Market. Now, I'm looking at this site here, and I know that the Kroger Market on Greenfield is now moving to, I think, 12 Mile. And that's supposed to happen sometime in June, so we're going to lose that one Kroger Market, which is not very good anyway. But is this complex, is a future thought that we would have an upscale grocery complex here, like a Plum Market, a Whole Foods, or something of that nature? I don't know if we're at that point to say that. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes.
after you close the public hearing, maybe Mr. Scott Jonah could just respond to the petitioner's comment.
Okay, is anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, public hearing, public portion is closed. Okay, petitioner, you can step to the front here and.
Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you, Scott Jonah with AF Jonah Development. The city of Southfield has been a true pleasure to work with. The developments in the city that we have, we're truly proud of, and as you can see, we truly put pride in our developments. We have engaged Friedman to do our leasing on the site, and they have just started. They just put 4 lease signs up. I believe there's 4 4x6 V-shaped monuments, and they will be hitting every tenant possible to fill this place up. So that answers it, or any other questions?
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, concerns? Commissioner Martin.
The gentleman was speaking about sewage line that was there. Said there's a 5-foot diameter sewage line and a drainage line. What other buildings are using those lines? I understand, the former buildings in Northland are any of the other buildings on Greenfield using those lines?
There's a little corner development to the south that runs through our site. See if I can find an aerial. There you go. So do you see that little wedge underneath Unit 4? That development also runs north and into across our site and into Greenfield Road, in front of our site.
So nothing south of Northland Drive uses
The one development south of Northland Drive does.
That's that large office complex south.
Good.
And the art structures that you have, I know they're just proposed and not really,
Right.
but there's two things I look at. Are they child-proof and kid-proof safe? That's something that, you know, in an open area like that, if people are out there shopping with kids, kids are going to climb whatever they can, and that's something that needs to be considered. Is if they have access to be able to climb it, what are they going to fall into, or is it something where there's sharp edges or something? That's just something to consider when you get to that phase. I know this is way too soon for it.
Absolutely. No, it's a very fair comment. And yeah, we just have some placeholders in there now, just so you guys know that something will be there.
And you also had mentioned benches in the landscaped area. They're just along there, you know, they're not in your concept, so those are something that's also, that will be down the road.
Yeah, through the chair, we have, all the streetscape elements are been very defined. The brick columns, the thickness, the height, those are some of the details that we have to match up with the drawings. But we will be specifying a bench, a trash receptacle, a bike rack, street poles, everything will be uniformed.
Something like
Just like City Center, just like the Evergreen Road and City Center, everything will match and be unified and complement each other. And again, this will be the first development, so whatever we decide on the the final product will be used throughout the development.
I think it looks very nice, and it's a nice start. Just want the whole thing done.
Yeah, and again, I've used the phrase, when steel starts going up and the old buildings start coming down, there'll be a lot of excitement. They have an aggressive timeline. They get through all their approvals through this winter. They'll be breaking ground first thing in the spring. We know how quickly they move, and we believe that the activity will generate future activity, and hopefully they'll be sequentially building phases 1 and 2 and then moving south all the way down, and they'll have projects in line with that.
Good. Okay. Commissioner Denson?
Thank you. Thank you. How many phases are they?
So, right now, this is the first phase. And what we're saying, because we don't necessarily know the answer to that question, we're hoping it's 2, but we're calling this a future phase. And I think what that means is that if the applicant can get a tenant that he wants on Unit 3, for example, that they would build just that one building in the parking lot in front of it. The one thing that is important to remember, that all of the streetscape and landscape frontage will be done in phase 1. So the whole entire top piece will be done in phase 1, and then all of the frontage for units 2 and units 3, including the trees. And if they get, one building, I don't think they're necessarily waiting for all 4, is my point. If they all come at once, they'll build all 4 at once. But if one good user comes along, they would also build that in the parking lot in front of that as well.
Okay. I know that the city has a tentative purchase agreement, and it's more than the, this is 8, 8.
9 acres in terms of, yeah, this is about just under 9 acres.
Okay, but I know that the agreement is more than that, so what?
I can clarify that through the chair. So AF Jonah has a purchase agreement for units 2 and 3 that are approximately 9 acres. That's what we're considering tonight. That is exclusive of other purchase agreements or letters of intent for the remaining parcels. Of approximately 120 acres, 111 are spoken for. So in subsequent meetings, you will see other development portions of the property under separate purchase agreements by separate development companies. But tonight, we're just on the, focused on the 9 acres
Right.
for AF Jonah.
So in terms of, is a representative from Jonah here?
Yes, Mr. Scott Jonah.
So, not including this part that we are talking about, do you have any other areas, other businesses that are thinking about coming?
Right now, we're working through the whole due diligence phase, and there's not really too much to speak on besides our plan we're trying to show. So as of right now, I can't speak on anything.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Willis?
Thank you so much. First of all, I need to say, I think it's a great project, but I was disappointed that it did not abut the sidewalk. And I heard your reason, understand the rationale behind it. I think sidewalk abutting businesses is just a different character, different nature, and, well, I'll get off of that one. But
If I could, Mr. Willis, just to remind you, the very first photo that I showed was the concept plan that did not have buildings up close to Greenfield.
Okay.
If we could go to the very first slide. So this is the concept plan that was approved, and you notice that the buildings were not up close to the road. And the reason was we were working off the Montgomery Ward building setback, and all of that development was based on that existing setback. And there was at least 2 rows of parking proposed in this concept plan. So one was respecting the existing setback of the former Montgomery Ward's Tire Center. The second one that we got reminded is all the utilities that run through there. So it never was the intent to have greenfield frontage buildings built right up to the road. So I just want that to be clear. Now, some of the interior ones, yes, we were trying to get the zero lot setback.
Thank you. I do have a question, though. I'm looking at your elevation. It's on page 19, and it shows the back of the buildings, and they're very plain. They're just straightforward back of buildings. And it looks like there's going to be an additional phase where the back of the building is going to be, and I'm looking at now page 17, in back of your unit 2, there's white space. That's the elevation. I think if you look at the lower floors, well, the ones near the bottom, you can see that they're just relatively plain. And my feeling is it's okay if those buildings will be seen by the back of other buildings or other projects. Right now, it's just kind of open, and it looks like if there's going to be a project that's in back of you, what they'll see is the back of those buildings. And that could be, well, the aesthetics of it is something I would be concerned with. And so what I can see again on page 17 is white space. And again, I don't know what that next phase is going to look like. If the building is going to face just the opposite to you and the back of that building is going to face the back of your building, I have no concerns. But if this is going to be an area that has other venues, other businesses, if it's going to be open for the public, then I have concern with that relatively plain facade.
Yeah, we have considered that, and there are some ideas for what will occur behind Unit 2. So the buildings that you're looking at now are that northern one, that's Unit 2 specifically, and we've intentionally left those green belts in the rear that you see located now as an opportunity to provide evergreen trees and a lot of different buffer areas depending on what that next use could be, whether or not that's retail or shopping center or potentially residential, kind of changes the way and aspect of where you want different windows and lines of visibilities and those things. But if you notice that area in the rear, we've left that just in case we have to provide a full row of evergreen shrubs that will provide a full buffer between those buildings and the adjacent future use.
Okay, so it would be your idea then, if there's another building and they would look directly at you, you would use trees, use shrubbery, that kind of thing?
Right.
Okay, I'll pass, let me think about that, but I'll pass it to the next person.
But through the chair, to Mr. Willis's point, Mr. Spence and I, that's one of our conditional requirements,
Okay.
is to dress up the north and the west facade of this building. We also feel it's too plain,
Okay,
and that is one of our comments in our conditional approval. So we will work with the architect on dressing that up, regardless of what happens there, and regardless of
Okay.
of shrubs or walls or so forth. We would like to see the north and west side have some more architectural embellishments to break up that long blank wall. Also, you may or may not see that, but the sample building materials have been brought here just to show you the variety of some of the brick and color material on those buildings. So what you see is the white is probably the beige brick on the bottom. And the colorization of the bricks will help break up that wall as well. But I'd like to see some vertical pilasters, pillars, columns offset that provides the shadow line. And if possible, even a couple windows to break up, depending on the tenant and their interior use.
okay, thank you.
To the chair.
Mr. Culpepper.
Thank you. Let me say, I think this is great to have this area rezoned. And let me say, judging from what has been done on 12 Mile and Southfield, I'm glad that Jonah is doing this, because I agree with Mr. Martin here. The way this is laid out, this will definitely set off Evergreen. If it comes to fruition that the landscape is going to show, I was along with Mr. Willis at first about having the closer to the curb, but I didn't know about the drainage. But I think this is a great project. I agree that once this is broken, if it's approved, that it will bring people, because this is the gateway to that area, and I think it separates this area. If it looks anything like the project on 12 Mile and Southfield, I think it's great. These 9 acres will, once it comes up and it's to fruition, I think it'll be great. Along with the comment about the whatever artwork we put in there. We've always had a thing about putting artwork in, but it has to be safe. I know you haven't decided what you're going to put there, but rezoning of this, I think, is 100% great, and I approve of it. Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner
Chair,
Martin.
I know here again that this is, you're talking about doing the building, but I don't see at the rear of the building any place for any type of loading, unloading, stock, that type of thing. And I assume that that would have to be considered with the determining the type of building, the actual tenant that would use the building, and what type of entrance and exit you'd have at the back for loading and unloading, along with the green space that Terry's talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
We require minimum 20 foot around the rear of the building for emergency purpose access, and that could be designated part of their loading zone, and we could designate hours of loading and unloading so it doesn't interfere with the shopping.
Yeah, well, I guess my thing was on the architectural elevations, it showed no rear entrances or exits.
Yeah, the final door locations are still
Yeah.
subject to the final floor plans. But if you kind of take a peek at this plan, we've left room in the rear of both of the buildings for the proper size trucks to pull up and unload. It's just a matter of placing the doors
Yeah.
once those are finalized.
Yeah, I noticed you had the truck on the rear of the building that, on your color diagram.
To the Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Culpepper.
Could we get a better look at the
materials?
Concerned about the, no. But what you have in your hand, that would be what would be in the rear? The one you got in your hand is what?
Stone in
No,
Stone?
get the-
Which one would be?
Stone is an accent piece
Or just an extra?
that you see if you go back to the elevation.
Now, what would be, it would be just white in the back?
No, you're gonna, right there. So,
Jason.
my name is Jason.
That's Jason.
I'm sorry. That's okay. So, where you see some of the light colors, like at the top of the little columns.
Right.
That's where you see the stone accents.
Okay.
Here, where you have the sort of yellow painting down at the bottom and the red brick, that's where you're gonna see more brick.
Okay. So we'll be brick, and there will be glass also.
Yep.
The
Glass and
architect,
then we're
the
showing some
architect.
black and white right now. These colors are a little subject to change, but, you know, for the most part, it should be in this color palette. We might see some more burnished block at the bottom there, because it's a little more durable than the brick, but it's all in the masonry family.
But it is in the plan to do something to the back with maybe glass or something, regardless of what's behind it, because it's just not gonna be completely.
Of course, we work with Terry and
Yeah, I
his team to
Yeah, okay, I'll stay in my lane, let the architect take it without this concern. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, good. Commissioner Griffiths?
Was the fitness center in a different lot originally?
Yeah,
It
so
was to the south, further south?
it was. So what we did was originally, when we were with you just a couple weeks ago, we had, what we were doing in phase 1 was the fitness center on the southern part of Unit 3 and the shopping center on Unit 2. And what happened after that meeting, kind of everybody started thinking, why should we build 2 incomplete developments when we can kind of lump the 2 definites that we have right now in phase 1 and make one beautiful, unified, complete development. So I should have touched on that. So good, good call on bringing that to light. But that was a thought process behind the change.
The other thing I could add is that we, subsequent to their study session, the development team in the city met with Ascension Health and Providence Hospital on their future plans. And I believe everybody agreed that having the fitness center closer to the hospital made more sense as far as physical therapy, physical fitness, and walkability. So for those 2 reasons, the design team moved the building.
And that was one of my original design comments, was that the fitness center was plain. You still have a blank wall of brick, but it looks infinitely better in the right location on the site.
Right.
So everything you said, this makes way more sense to have the complete development here. The style of the buildings, I really like the style. It's further developed than what you had last time. And I see you're putting a lot of masonry on these buildings. I mean, these are nice sides and backs and secondary faces. I mean, the typical strip center is a concrete block with peeling paint after 20 years. And I mean, these are nice. You drive around the building on Southfield Road, there's apartments behind it. It's a similar treatment to what they did over there, which is a good concept. I really like the architecture of it. It's simple, it's spare, but it's going to be, I think, unique if this ties back in. Maybe some adaptive reuse of the old buildings, maybe these tower open structure elements that you have going. I think it's going to be a cool aesthetic to play off of as you go. And the unified landscape, I remember when all the bike paths and everything out here on Evergreen Road and the roundabouts, when that was all just, we were thinking about it and we were looking at dirt and mud, and as it all got built, it's awesome. I use it personally all the time when I ride my bike around here. So once those elements are there, people really start to notice that good things are happening. And I think this is a nice development. This is a big development, but what's most exciting to me is what's going to happen with the rest of the site. And I think this is, I said it before too, somebody has to go first. And this is a nice first. This is a couple big projects right here. I think this is going to really, hopefully, get a lot of momentum going. And to answer that question, like who's coming next, like whoever's quality and signs the lease, we'll build them another building right away. I mean, that's going to be great.
Right.
That's exciting. Hopefully, this thing runs out for the next 5-10 years, and it's all looking beautiful and full. So I think it's exciting. I appreciate the nod to the old Northland sign too. That's kind of cool, reusing that and then still mixing on the modern elements with it. So I think that was a good little touch at the end.
Thank you.
Very excited.
Commissioner Ditson.
Thank you. I see that you have your proposed bike racks, but where are they? Because I don't see them. I mean, I don't see them, but I know they are there. Where?
Yeah, so we'll have bike racks in front of all of the buildings, and then also located at all the pedestrian pathways that come into the site. So you're gonna have, in totality, when this thing is done, probably 12 different bike rack locations, and probably 24 overall bike racks.
But it's not showing here.
So there's a full set that we submitted, our formal drawings to the city that have a lot more detail. These were kind of our renderings that we put together for our presentation here tonight, but we'll be happy to detail those better further and show the locations.
Thank you.
It's such a big site, unfortunately, that it's hard to see some of the smallest design elements.
Do we have them at the, when we talk about the side plan?
They should be part of your packet that was handed out tonight. They're at 11 by 17 scale, so it might be difficult to see the level where it's a bike rack, but that will be part of our due diligence to make sure that they comply with it.
And I just wanted to identify where so that I can see what I'm thinking about.
So just, again, I want to remind you, you're going to be approving a master development plan, and then you're going to be, part of that master development plan will be Phase 1 site improvements, to your point. So those drawings are part of your packet.
If I may, to the chair, yeah, if you look at your sheet C4, just north of the three unit retail building, there are proposed bicycle racks for 4 spaces there.
In essence, you're going to provide at least 1 bike rack at each development pad.
Yeah.
Plus some areas where there's the pedestrian plazas and so forth.
That's right.
But there are notes on the plan that identify where those bike racks are.
Yeah, and if I may, to the chair, there's also 2 bike racks for 4 spaces off the southeast corner of the fitness center as well, on sheet C4. So there's 4 spaces available at the fitness center, 4 spaces available at the retail center.
Thank you.
Yeah, to the chair, thank you. I hope this was in your scope. Are you planning on doing anything with the ball, that Northland ball?
With the,
On page 18, you got the Northland sign, then we got the big ball that's been there.
The water tower?
the water tower?
Tower.
I
Are
guess,
you planning on doing
so
anything?
what I'll say is this, that's not located on this development, units 2 or units 3, but, the big picture intention and, a reason for showing these very important aspects is that we want to keep them and include them as part of this. So,
I wasn't
but
aware of
that-
that.
Yeah, and that was brought up today at an earlier meeting,
Right.
that it's the city's desire that if the water tower can feasibly be kept,
Right.
that we do it as an aesthetic, and it possibly could be part of their art requirement, but a structural analysis will have to be done to see if it's safe or cost prohibitive to keep it. But it won't be used functionally as a water
No,
tower. But
just-
that is a subsequent phase.
Right. Okay, and along with what Commissioner Jensen was saying, we understand that you're going to have bike racks at the apartment, and I'm looking, maybe it's here. Are you going to have bike racks at the entrance as you go into the complex to have someone riding a bike comes in and want to ride around or walk.
Do you see the crosswalks here on those paths?
Uh-huh.
So along our streetscape design, there's a little entranceway that will put a little bike rack along Greenfield. Whether or not we want to put them next to the driveways is probably unsafe, so we won't be putting them at that pedestrian corner. But certainly along the buildings and then probably at the pedestrian entrances, if I So do you see that little entrance right there where you see the piece of art? Like those will have a bike rack as well. The
Okay,
sidewalk
thank-
comes into the site a little bit.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else, commissioners? Okay, Terry?
Yeah, so on this slide itself, number 20 there, in front of the retail, I mean, I like the attempt to soften with the landscaping, but Jeff and I don't think that's practical for people parking and trying to walk and access. So either we would suggest that you use some raised planters and kind of break that up, or push the landscaping. If you got the one view of the fitness center, the perspective, similar to that. Just either push the landscaping up against the fitness center's wall so that then you keep the sidewalk open and unimpeded, or reduce the amount of landscaping on that frontage to allow for significant points of access.
Yeah, it's probably a little excessive there.
Yeah, I mean, we like the attempt of the softening, but I don't think it's going to be practical, and there's no sense, trying to work that in. Now, if you had some large raised planters and they were spaced apart, that could do it, or landscaping up against, but that was one concern. I think we already touched on, we'd like to see the building facade on the fitness center on the north and west side broken up with some additional architectural embellishments, similar to what you have in the rear of the retail center. And on your next submittal, that green space on the south side of Unit 2, unless that's going to be a dedicated park, just conceptually show a building footprint, whether it's a bank or a drive-through or whatever it is, just conceptually. We know in phase 1 it'll be green space. I like the fact that we're going to have all the streetscape elements from north to south built as part of phase 1, and the primary entrance road with the median and the secondary entrance roads on the north and south will also be kind of stubbed out and landscaped. One of the comments that I mentioned is that we'd like to see the decorative crosswalk go from north to south through each of the 3 driveway entrances, so it's a continuous pedestrian crosswalk, and the median then becomes a safe harbor for pedestrians, similar to what we have out here on Evergreen Road.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then Mr. Spence has a list of a few minor things that we picked up in our latest review this afternoon. We will make our conditional recommendation of approval of the development agreement subject to us sitting down and fly specking all of those requirements. Mr. Spence?
Yeah, so again, they're not major issues, more or less just some details. We would like an elevation of the landscaping along Greenfield Road that does show what the landscaping looks like with pillars. I know we kind of get a sense of that from the perspectives, but we would like an actual head-on, as if you were looking from Greenfield onto that, along with the dimensions in between each pillar.
And if I could just jump in, if you go to slide 25, your detail your detail of the pillars on your site plan is about a 4 foot high, maybe by like 1 by 1, and we have a very specific 2'6" by 2'6". It's a little meatier and it's a little stouter.
Okay.
So if you could just replicate this detail on your plans, because you conceptually show this on the perspectives, but on your actual site plan, you show a very thin 48-inch high column.
This was our intention, Terry. It's
Yeah,
just with all
I
the-
I don't want these details to be overlooked.
Sure.
So the commission knows that if they give a favorable recommendation, it's subject to these things being worked out.
Yep, so I don't have any other comments.
Okay, thank you. I think in order for this property to really reach its full potential, rezoning is very necessary. This is a beautiful piece of property, and, kind of tired of looking at a sea of asphalt, so it's going to be great driving down Greenfield and seeing some really nice green space there. Looks like you're doing a good job. We know Jonah's going to do a good job putting this thing together, so I think it's a great project, and looking forward to seeing this move forward. Can we have the recommendation from the planning department?
If I may, through the chair, just one additional comment. I know we've been focusing pretty heavily on Unit 2. With regard to Unit 3, I think it's been noted that while there will be no buildings there is some planned development on that property. And if you could, if I may, if you could go to the very last slide, it kind of gives you a look as to what Unit 3 is, yeah, right there. So Unit 3, basically, while there's no buildings, the proposal is for seeding of that particular area, and then the landscape treatment along Greenfield Road, and you can see the treatment along the street. So that is also what's coming before you this evening, that is Unit 3, and that is basically their Phase 1 for Unit 3, and you would also be looking at approving that tonight.
Okay, good. Commissioner Willis.
Thank you. I have a question. You're looking at seeding for that Unit 3. Nice lay of grass, but grass grows, needs to be maintained, watered, all of those other things. Who cares for that?
They will as owner. And if the construction proceeds like they anticipate, they'll be just sequentially building along that way, from north to south. If there's a pause in development, then they have to maintain that as green space.
Okay.
So any recommendation we're doing now is only on Unit 2, PZR ODDD-001. And then we're going to open up the second public hearing, but do a shorter presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, so through the chair, Planning Department's recommendation with regard to PZR ODD 19-0001 is favorable consideration to amend the existing Northland Sub-Area Redevelopment Plan, ODD, and allow for the Master Development Plan for Unit 2, as well as construction for Phase 1 development in accordance with the proposed development agreement on 4.1 acres of land with underlying RS Regional Shopping District for the following reasons. Proposal will be consistent with surrounding zoning classifications, as in accordance with the Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan that indicates Downtown Development Authority sub-area for the parcel, and is consistent with the Northland Design Guidelines and Standards. Proposal utilizing the Northland Sub-Area Redevelopment Plan ODD Overlay Development District provisions with underlying RS Regional Shopping zoning will allow the petitioner to market the properties for redevelopment with mixed use compatible with abutting existing developments, and will allow for development flexibility in accordance with the attached amended ODD development agreement. Proposed rezoning will not have adverse effects upon adjoining zonings or land uses, and the petitioner will work with the Planning Department to finalize the amended Northland Overlay Development District Development Agreement for Unit 2.
To the chair.
Commissioner Culpepper.
Question. Jeff, are you going to add those, the ones you just talked about to this?
We did a blanket saying that they'll work with us on the details. So we'll ensure that those things that were discussed are incorporated into
Okay, just want to make sure it's on it.
Commissioner Denson.
Thank you.
So can you, highlight the things that you have to discuss?
Yes, we can go over those again. So the elevations of the north and west of the proposed fitness center will have to have some additional architectural embellishments. The landscaping that's proposed in front of the both developments will need to be scaled down to allow for pedestrian flow.
Yeah, Unit 2, the pad for Unit 2, the south portion, they'll at least provide to us at least a proposed building layout for that for future phase.
And that the development agreement dimensional requirements will be adjusted based on the plans that are being approved tonight.
Elevations for landscaping treatment as well.
To the chair?
Good.
And those requirements will be done administratively, right, Chair?
That's what we're asking for.
Okay, all right, just want to be sure. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner Mia?
I was going to say, as a result of the favorable consideration from the planning department, that I suggest that I'd like to propose that PZR 18-0003.
Okay. Hold on one second. Commissioner Denson, do you have another question?
Just one more question. So, partial 3, is it, explain again, what's the procedure, I mean, what's the?
We're working on parcel 1 right now, and as soon as that gets completed, we're going to open up parcel 2 for public hearing, discussion, and a separate approval.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I would second the motion that's on the floor.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Mia for favorable consideration, and it was seconded by Commissioner Willis. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so PZR 18-000, wrong one. PZR ODD 19-0001 passes.
Right. Good luck.
Next on the agenda, we have PZR ODD 19-0002.
I would move for.
Well, thank you
No,
through
no,
the
no.
chair. We have to have a separate public hearing on this. We'll keep the presentation brief because I think we covered it in detail under the first phase, but this is a separate public hearing, PZR ODDD 19-002, petitioners AF Jonah Development. Property is located on the east side of Greenfield between JL Hudson Drive and Northland Drive. Parcel is approximately 4.54 acres. This is within the lifestyle and shopping districts of the Northland Overlay Development District. And this proposal is to amend the current Northland Sub-Area Redevelopment Plan Overlay Development District to allow for development of commercial buildings on proposed subparcel Unit 3, which is highlighted here in red. The property is approximately 263 feet deep and 751 feet long. Existing conditions, it's mostly parking lot and some exterior landscaping that service the former J.C. Penney's development. The parcel is currently zoned Northland ODD with a split of lifestyle district and shopping district. This is the master development plan. These are all conceptual at this point. But they include potentially 4 retail buildings with associated parking and green space. But as Mr. Spence had pointed out, phase 1 of this development is only the exterior landscaping and the improvements to the primary road and the secondary road. The remaining of the site will be in green space until appropriate development. We will utilize similar development standards as we did for parcel Unit 2. So as long as they abide by those development standards, the setbacks, the landscaping, the pedestrian connectivity, the bike racks, the streetscape, the art, then if they come back with future development, they don't have to amend the ODD, they'll just have to go through the normal site plan approval procedures. But since there's nothing specifically planned, Planning Commission is making a recommendation on the master development plan, within the guidelines that we've established under Unit 2. With that, if there's anything else you want to add, and then we can open the public hearing and answer any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to take this time to open the public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to speak, please step forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And commissioners, are there any questions, concerns about this phase of the project? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to have a recommendation from the planning department.
With regard to PZR ODD 19-0002, the Planning Department recommends favorable consideration to amend the existing Northland Sub-Area Redevelopment Plan ODD and allow for a master development plan for Unit 3, as well as the installation of required landscape elements and plazas along Greenfield Road, 4.54 acres of land with underlying RS Regional Shopping Zoning District for the following reasons. Proposal will be consistent with the surrounding zoning classifications and is in accordance with Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan that indicates Downtown Development Authority subarea for this parcel and is consistent with the Northland Design Guidelines and Standards. Proposal utilizing the Northland Subarea Redevelopment Plan ODD Overlay Development District provisions with underlying RS Regional Shopping Zoning will allow the petitioner to market the properties for redevelopment with mixed-use land uses compatible with the abutting existing development and will allow the developer for the development flexibility in accordance with the attached amended ODD development agreement. Proposed rezoning will not have adverse effects upon adjoining zonings or land uses, and the petitioners to work with the planning department to finalize amended Northland Overlay Development District development agreement for Unit 3.
So all of the architectural design elements in Unit 2 will be carried over to Unit 3. All the landscaping, all the pedestrian amenities, all the streetscape will be incorporated into Unit 3's development agreement. So they'll have to comply with those so that we have a unified development.
Great. Okay, commissioners, can I get a motion?
I would move for favorable approval of PZR ODD 19-0002.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for favorable consideration from Commissioner Willis, and seconded by Commissioner Mia. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so the rezoning request passes. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you and good luck.
Good job.
Terry?
To the chair,
Commissioner Culpepper.
I move approval of minutes dated October 2nd, 2019, study meeting, October 16th, 2019, long-range study meeting, October 16th, 2019, special meeting, October 23, 2019, regular meeting.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion for approval of the minutes from Commissioner Culpepper, supported by Commissioner Willis. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair, to the chair.
Commissioner Martin.
I'd like to abstain from October 16th in meetings because I was not present.
Okay, so Commissioner Martin will abstain. Okay, all in favor? I guess we voted.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so the minutes will pass as stated. Public comment? There's no public comment. Any miscellaneous?
Yes, just want to remind you that we will have a busy December. We have 5 or 6 developments coming through. December 4th will be a study meeting. And then on our second study meeting on December 11th, we'd ask if you're available, we'd like to schedule a special meeting to begin at 5:30, and that is for the purpose of touring some facilities that will be discussed in December. So we'll have all the details available for you on December 4th, but similar to when we went to McKinley School and the barn, We will have some addresses. We're trying to schedule the availability of these facilities. But if you could keep December 11th open with a special meeting start time of 5:30. And we'll give you the details either before or at our December 4th meeting. We're still working on those details.
Okay.
What type of facilities?
We're trying to set up some of the medical marijuana facilities that are coming down the pipe, so you can see them firsthand. But we have to reach out to the proprietors to see what is available, so I don't know yet. We're hoping to give you a sample of the various types of ones, but nothing's been settled yet.
Questions, concerns, commissioners? Okay, if there's nothing else, meeting is adjourned.